Alright, well we're going to start week 3, but before we do that, I thought I would check in on our relationships. And we've got 3 3/4 hearts with KYLER. And his thing changed from an aloof square to an aloof square mate. And that's all we're going to get on him. For now anyway. I wonder if it'll change later. And this is all done out, so it's all cave again. He just doesn't leave that cave ever. Hopefully we're more successful this week. Nope. So far, not so good. These clay sediments are a pain. I grumbled inwardly as I wiped the sticky dirt off yet again. I was on my knees trying to finish the last 25 centimeters. I did uncover tiny bones, but rationalized they weren't worth sketching in the grid. There was a sound of scraping metal, and I turned to see Hendrik climbing down the ladder behind me. What a rare sight! You're hardly in the cave, Hendrik.
I know. As a geologist, you'd think it'd be the opposite, but here I am now.
He surveyed my square, and I started to get self-conscious, wondering if I was doing something wrong.
I hope you don't mind the tight squeeze.
He knelt down next to me, and I hastily moved to my haunches, offering him my knee pad. He shook his head.
Don't worry about it. I'll just be here for a few minutes. I wanted to observe your digging techniques.
After I made myself comfortable again, I leaned forward to start excavating. He watched, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. How am I doing?
Is your wrist well? Any pains from repetition?
Nope, Sherry gave me some pointers to avoid it.
Great. Mind if I borrow your trowel for a second?
Sure. I cleaned it, handed it over, and he grasped it nimbly.
I've noticed your wrist is slightly angled, and you're simply scraping or trailing your trowel through the dirt. It's painfully slow.
Isn't archaeology supposed to be painfully slow? He held the trowel so it was parallel to the dirt.
It is, but even you should be able to dig through a few centimeters a day. Align your trowel like so, then make a nice downward flick with the wrist.
The blade of the tool effortlessly sliced through the clay, much cleaner than before.
Don't be afraid to make large cuts. This helps you avoid blurring the sediment lines, as it's neater and easier to distinguish.
Okay, last time I did this, and KYLER was like, Hey, you okay? Do you need to talk? It was a strange feeling, like he'd encroached on my role. This was my square, and at this point I felt I understood it better than anyone. I struggled to keep my face composed. My fingers trembled as I impatiently waited for him to return my trowel. I see. You're pretty good at this. Can I resume my work now?
Oh, sure. Someone's eager.
Thanks for the tip, Hendrik.
Geen probleem. If you need me again, I'll be happy to assist. Just don't start taking me for granted.
Okay, that was cheesy, even for you.
Hey, that pun is a classic.
He returned the tool to me and stood up. Glancing in KYLER's direction, Hendrik rubbed the back of his head, mulling over how to approach him. Finally, he tapped KYLER on the shoulder. KYLER begrudgingly stared at him before activating his implant.
Oui.
KYLER's voice struggled to keep an even tone, while Hendrik's voice had a shaky cheerfulness to it.
I was wondering if you needed any help or had any questions.
I'm fine. I don't need your help. KYLER returned to his square, ignoring Hendrik, who sighed ruefully. It's not the best time to ask, even if my curiosity is killing me. I returned to my work while Hendrik climbed up the ladder, most likely to make his rounds with the other students. Staring at my trowel, I recalled Hendrik's movements, then attempted to mimic them to the best of my ability. Slice cleanly, huh? I gazed at the cuts that Hendrik had made and started to replace them with my own digging.
You seemed shocked when he demonstrated.
Was it that noticeable?
To me. Did he do something to upset you?
Not really, but not upset, more like surprised? I've been working on the square for weeks, and it was unnerving to see someone else digging into it. I feel like I know what I'm doing and what to expect in these sediments now.
As if no one knows the area better than you.
I guess so. What a selfish feeling, am I right? I knew he's like, I get this. I get this, girl.
No, I can relate. People can get comfortable where they work, even attached to it. Would you rather work at a different square if given the chance?
No.
Even so, it's not a bad thing to work on a different stratum. Know what it's like to dig through a glacial period, or something more recent.
I really like your smile, by the way. That's a nice smile.
Of course, no matter where you dig.
You'll still find cave bear. I stood up and stretched. It was a good time to take a small break and jot down some notes in my journal. I'm gonna get some fresh air. You know, KYLER, you're gonna get hypoxia if you don't go outside every now and then. Oh, and the moment's gone.
I'll be fine.
Okay, later. Don't stay mad at me forever, boo. I just thought you might like to come outside with me as I fail my interneting. Completely famished by this morning's tasks, I scooted onto the bench with a bowl of mushroom soup. Grabbing a slice of Swiss cheese, I teared it and dropped the pieces into the soup.
What are you doing?
Adding cheese to my soup?
Is that what people do in America?
It's what I do. I guess it's common enough. I haven't really thought about it. A few seats down, I noticed KYLER also eyeing my actions before silently returning to his meal. Was adding cheese to soup really that bizarre? I heard a holler behind us, and many of us automatically turned our heads toward the driveway. A tall woman dragged a suitcase behind her, while her free hand waved toward one end of the eating area. Hendrik immediately stood up and approached her. Ah, Rosemary.
Rose, glad you could finally make it. I didn't think you'd arrive this early.
No thanks to you. You practically ditched me in the middle of those core samples.
What can I say? Analyzing core samples is boring.
Oh no, don't pun around with me, Mr. Ace Geologist. Her stern expression faded, and they both exchanged a cordial grin as they leaned in for a cheek kiss. Cheek kissed? Yes, that. Augustin and Sherry gathered around her as well. Would it be okay to introduce myself, too? Why don't we just do that another time? No, it feels so rude if I just barged in there and introduced myself. I was a student under Sherry, after all. However, I was still curious. I glanced in KYLER's direction. Hey, KYLER. KYLER? Who is she?
Rosemary. She's part of the main team. She does lithic work and all that. Stone tools and technology.
Huh, that's pretty neat.
Usually she arrives earlier to teach students about identifying flint.
He trailed off, feeling that his answer was self-contained enough, and resumed eating his meal.
Rosemary is...
Chantal delivered a concise summary, and Joan nodded happily.
Of course, that means yet another lecture. If only they covered the stuff I want to learn.
Chantal slumped over while Joan fidgeted anxiously. They exchanged a few words in French, and Chantal seemed touched.
Aw, Joan.
What did she say?
She says she'll stay with me for the whole 8 weeks. Most students, if archaeology isn't their elective, only need to stay for 4 at the most. I mean, I could break it down, but I'd rather get it over with in one go.
Then KYLER doesn't have to be here? This is his 4th time.
I guess not, but it does look good if you're trying to break into archaeological work. Either way, I don't want to pay 100 euros a week to dig in dirt, but I guess that's his thing. He's probably not graded on this. He willingly paid to volunteer?
She tilted her head, pondering, before concluding with a careless shrug.
And you're here until the excavation ends?
Uh-huh. Be a shame if I only came here for a few weeks, considering how far I've flown.
Here till the end.
She grinned, proud of her ability to follow the conversation. Her hearing comprehension was superior to her verbal skills. It made me wish I could pick up French faster. I swirled my spoon into my soup until it was cheesy enough to form strings when I lifted the utensil. Satisfied, I swallowed a mouthful. Joan stuck out her tongue at the sight, causing Chantal to laugh.
Stop giving her culture shock, Melissa. She's very sheltered.
It's just cheese. Goodness gracious me. Before we knew it, lunch was officially over, and it was time to return to our assigned tasks. Hopefully I would be able to properly introduce myself to Rosemary later. I had a feeling I would learn a lot from her. She's pretty awesome, is Rosemary. Yay! Woo, we succeeded in the cave! Holy mackerel! Woohoo! Tense. Why was the air around here so tense? I pondered that while I stirred my cheese-drenched tomato soup. Both Joan and Chantel, who previously sat and talked with me, had disappeared. Many students paced by the museum entrance. Some checked their phones or glanced over the shoulders of others to view their screens. Meanwhile, DeAndre spread mustard on his second or third sandwich. At least he seemed unfazed. What's going on? Everyone appears to be anticipating something.
Exam results are being released today.
This late? After a casual shrug, he took a large bite of his sandwich. He wiped his mouth before speaking.
Usually they're released earlier, but they had some problem with the data or entry system or whatever.
They must be super important if everyone looks this anxious.
It's a make or break it deal. If students don't average out a certain percentage, they have to repeat a year.
Okay, we're not gonna root for DeAndre. I think we did this last time? Yikes, he must be worried. I'm sure you'll do fine.
Do fine. You make it sound like I'm barely scraping by.
Aw, I didn't mean like that, old boo. No. He pouted and tore into the sandwich with more vigor. I didn't mean it like that. I guess you're used to the grading system by now?
Too used to it. Fortunately, this will be my last semester, and then I'm free. The only thing left is to finish this elective requirement, since I'd hate to waste a semester on a single course. A more expensive course, too.
Jealous. At least you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I feel like I barely started, and it'll never end. I felt a playful flick on my forehead.
It'll be over before you know it. Hang in there.
Before I could respond, one of the students announced something in French, and everyone tapped away at their phones again.
Results are up.
From the reactions, DeAndre didn't need to clarify. However, he set the sandwich down and fished out his phone. We will stay in chat, because KYLER shows up in a little bit. I got a good look at his phone. It was noticeably bigger and clunkier, an older model, and there were dents all over it. Wow, you're not nice to your phone. Have you considered getting one of those protective covers?
Those screen protectors? Believe me, I've tried. There's still plastic film all over the side of my desk from attempting to apply those stupid things. Of course, whenever I want to use it, my phone slows down. Or maybe it's the website, but with the sheer number of students logging in.
He swung one leg over the bench and scanned for someone. KYLER was off to the side, also checking his phone, and DeAndre hollered something to him in French. KYLER responded curtly, but took a few steps closer to talk. I wasn't able to follow until DeAndre motioned to me.
Hey, let's not exclude her. Anyway, are you on the varsity website? Can you check for me?
What department?
Seriously? That's sweet as. English department.
KYLER paused and glanced at DeAndre inquisitively, but said nothing before turning back to his phone.
ID. The first numbers are 826, then 6 again, and last number is 942. You ain't wrong. What'd I get? Your average is 16.48. A little better than last time, not bad.
Is that a good score? What's it out of?
20. I got Grand Distinction, which is pretty solid. I'm guessing A's in your country?
Was this the correct ID I checked?
Oh? What's this, KYLER? Shocked that a pro athlete got good grades.
Smugly, DeAndre raised his hands to his head. After making fists, his fingers sprung out as he mimicked an exploding sound. KYLER glanced down at his phone. Mature.
Kidding aside, I reckon you did well too. Cheers, buddy.
Don't buddy me.
Mate. Don't mate me either. Wasn't thinking that.
After the jest sank in, Kyler massaged his temples with a broad hand.
This conversation is over.
Kyler stalked off, and DeAndre rolled his eyes toward me.
We're getting along so well.
Aw, is it still because you nailed him in the face with a rugby ball, or when you both had cooking duty?
Completely forgot about that. And yeah, we didn't get along there either. He was absolutely hopeless in the kitchen, and I really didn't have the patience for it. He can't do anything.
Oh, come on, it couldn't have been that bad.
Mel, he can't do anything. He failed cooking rice. In a rice cooker.
That's bad.
That's why if Helena gives me cooking duty, can we pair up from now on?
Maybe the three of us could work together and work something out. How about this? If Kyler is paired with you again, I'll join in. Sound better? DeAndre pondered it briefly, then gave a small nod.
Definitely. It'll go more smoothly. Besides, I think Kyler needs to learn, at the very least, how to make edible rice.
Agreed. With that sorted, DeAndre excused himself, explaining that he wanted to see his grades in further detail. I returned to my meal, wondering about my own marks. Aw, man, Melissa! Y26, altitude 120. I mumbled to myself as I jotted down the measurements. Once that was done, I wrapped the tiny, unidentified bone fragment in tin foil, then slipped a piece of paper with a 3 on it among the folds. I was digging through some forgotten badger burrow, which meant all the context in it was mixed up and useless. Did I even need to draw this on the document? Even with my music on, I heard it rain heavily outside, and it felt much damper in the cave. Kyler shifted from his knees to stand up. As a faster digger, he already reached the bottom of his square, and had been in a stooped position for some time. Oh, this one. As I zipped up my plastic bag, the lights suddenly went out. There were a few high-pitched squeals, but no real panic. Chatter murmured through the higher levels of the cave. I yanked my earbuds out and stuffed them into my hoodie pocket. I could barely see, although there were faint sources of illumination from emergency lights on the main catwalk. Augustin delivered something in French, while Sherry relayed the message farther down, likely instructions. Pulling out my phone, I switched to the flashlight application and set it on the clipboard between me and Kyler. What did they say?
He said that if the lights don't turn on in 10 to 15 minutes, we can leave. He's also grabbing some extra flashlights so he and Sherry can guide everyone out safely.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel confident walking around here in the dark, especially on the walkways with no rails. Grabbing my knee pads, I improvised a little cushion and sat down. Kyler did the same, but sat cross-legged, with his hands resting on his ankles. There was light conversation, along with jokes and laughter surrounding us, while Kyler and I remained silent. I fought the urge to pick up my phone and fiddle with a game or something to pass the time. I craved conversation with Kyler, but I had no common ground or good entry point. What would I even mention? Dirt? Digging? How annoying it was for clay to stick to your trowel? Shoji was shy, but our interests overlapped. DeAndre was friendly overall, and Hendrik would launch into a lively monologue if I asked about rocks. Kyler... Spotting him raising his left hand, I let out a tiny protesting whimper before I could stop myself. Wait... His fingers paused inches from his implant, and he turned to me curiously.
What is it?
I mentally kicked myself. I had no inkling of a topic either. In my scramble, I decided to... I was gonna do this, but the badgers thing was so funny last time. Gotta make this guy smile more. I'm gonna go for the badgers. I'll try this next time. I gestured to the ancient burrow and made a vertical motion to indicate its path. I was thinking, since it's now dark, all of the animals here are probably active again. I hope a badger doesn't pop out of the burrow and maul my face off. Bewildered, Kyler eyed me from the side before a small chortle escaped his lips. A moment later, he let out a sincere laugh as he shook his head. Wow, so you do have a sense of humor. And it's morbid.
No, I just didn't expect that. It caught me off guard.
A vibrant spark appeared in his usual disposition as he moved his hands to indicate the burrow.
Of course that wouldn't happen. That burrow's been long abandoned. Was that really the reason why you made that sound?
I curled up with my arms around my knees. Sorry. I did that because I thought you were going to turn your implant off, and I wanted to talk to you. You know, to pass the time. KYLER stared at me quizzically, like the notion had never crossed his mind. I wondered how common it was for someone to initiate a conversation with him.
I see. I was originally going to scratch my head. It wouldn't be sensible to switch it off while awaiting instructions.
Why do you turn it off anyway? Concentration?
Yes, that and battery life. I find it easier to work in silence while...
He glanced down at my phone with the earbuds attached. I smiled wryly. Total opposite, huh? I always need background noise, even if I'm reading. Shifting to my knees, I turned to him, sensing that we could maintain a conversation now. I pointed to my own ear impulsively as another question bubbled up. I bit my tongue to stop my inquiry and lowered my arm. However, KYLER noticed. For a second, I thought he would give me a deprecating frown, but instead he seemed amused. His tone was dry and matter-of-fact.
You're so nosy.
I'm sorry. You don't have to answer.
I don't mind. Anyway, it's hereditary. I was born deaf.
What's the sign language taught here? I only know of ASL.
There's two. Langue de Sign de Belgique francophone and the Flemish Sign Language. Both are pretty similar. It's the mouthing and dialects that differ. You're going to ask me to sign now, aren't you?
It's like you read my mind. Despite that, he seemed delighted, or at least complied without complaint. His hands moved while he spoke.
I usually sign in the French community. Therefore, I'm used to mouthing or speaking French along with it. English, I am a bit slower, but I think you get the picture.
His voice was deliberately unhurried, as were the gestures that accompanied it. I watched with interest.
Since you're from the States, this is how we sign American.
He interlaced his fingers in front of his chest. After making a complete circle, his hands dropped down. So when you complain about a nosy American, I'll know what to look for.
There is this nosy American girl.
The last gesture looked as if he was pretending to scrape something off the side of his jaw with his thumb. He stopped when we both heard voices echoing throughout the cave.
They're telling us to leave everything, save our documents and photographs here. Safety measure.
Gotcha, thanks. Are you okay down there? I glanced up and spotted Sherry, who held a large and powerful flashlight. Yes, we'll be right up. Wow, that digging session was cut short. But we had morbid humor, so it was a win. Unlike our studying. I should check my email. My parents must have... As I opened the lab door, I immediately froze. Oh, this thing again. Augustin ranted angrily at Rosemarie, who gestured to a chipped stone with tiny flakes surrounding it.
Permission to touch or manipulate any.
This is for my research! The two paused and turned to me, and I cowered at their annoyed stares. As I shrunk back, Augustin approached and slammed the lab door shut. Not wanting to loiter, I whirled around and collided into someone. Now I was awkwardly sandwiched between that person and the door. Sorry about that. I glanced up, instantly recognizing KYLER's tall frame. He appeared baffled, then gazed at the door. Muffled voices still argued behind it. He took a few steps back to allow more space between us.
Did something happen?
From what I could gather, Augustin is mad at Rosemarie over something. Why, were you planning to enter the lab too?
Yes, I was planning to ask a few questions, but it's probably not the best time now. Yourself.
I wanted to check my email. My laptop is in there, but I don't think they'd appreciate it if I slipped in to nab it.
You could try using the computer upstairs.
That old thing? Well, it's worth a shot. It was then I heard the faint clicking of a keyboard upstairs. I doubted Hendrik would remain in the lab with that sort of tension going on. Sure enough, halfway up the stairs, I spotted his auburn ponytail. I glanced back down at KYLER. Maybe it's something you can ask Hendrik?
I don't like going to him.
KYLER never acted this juvenile, and it caught me off guard. I wondered if he'd mistranslated his words, but his body language suggested otherwise. If you're curious, I could ask Hendrik about the situation. Hesitantly, KYLER took a step forward, and I cheered silently. I doubted KYLER would mention his original question to Hendrik, but maybe engaging him in conversation would loosen up whatever friction the two had with each other. I trooped upstairs energetically and gave Hendrik a wave. Hey, working up here now?
Sort of had to. Couldn't concentrate with the noise downstairs.
So, what happened? My email could wait, and it would inconvenience Hendrik to ask for his computer anyway. What's going on downstairs? It sounded as if they were upset over something.
Ah, that. It's nothing new here, although I wish it happened less often.
KYLER folded his arms wearily, and the two exchanged knowing glances that I couldn't understand.
What's the argument about this time? Despite my advice, Rosemary insisted on gluing flakes to a lithic core found in the A3 layers, since we've been able to uncover debitage belonging to that core.
That doesn't seem so bad. That's how you gain knowledge about napping, right?
Yes, but she ended up using the wrong glue. I'm not going to enjoy dismantling it. Honestly, I don't know why you let her continue to work here. She's nothing but trouble. What kind of attitude is that? Despite our disagreements, she is excellent at her job. If anything, her insight has been valuable.
Affronted, Hendrik stood up from his chair, shooting KYLER an aggravated glare. KYLER flinched slightly, but his eyes narrowed again. I tensed up, wondering if I should say something to appease them or leave before it got too heated.
I only say that because I'm thinking of the excavation team's best interests. You're getting ahead of yourself here. You're acting like you're one of us already. Just because you're in my uncle's good graces doesn't mean we'll hire you once you graduate. And we're not intending to hire anyone soon, especially not an inexperienced person fresh out of university with only a few months of fieldwork under his belt.
KYLER lowered his arms, his eyes looking both resentful and distraught, as if the notion had never occurred to him. Recovering, he clenched a fist, his voice rigid with determination.
I've excavated here longer than most people. I've certainly spent more time in the cave than you. I'm highly qualified. There's much more than just digging diligently in the same old square.
Oh, I didn't care if I was an outsider. Guys, quit it! I firmly stood between them before their voices escalated even louder than the commotion downstairs. There's already one dispute. Can we not have another? Alright, I'm siding with my boo. Also, KYLER's been working hard. You could cut him some slack, Hendrik. I'm sure his experience here will be extremely valuable, since he already knows the team and the procedures.
What?
Hendrik looked at me like I had discovered a flint in the wet screening, while KYLER seemed astonished and humbled by my support. Yeah! KYLER was probably not used to having anyone stick up for him.
I'll admit you have been very committed to this, KYLER. However, what goes on here isn't your concern. And please respect each and every member here. I did step out of line there. I sincerely apologize. No, it's cool.
However, before Hendrik could continue, KYLER already pivoted and descended the stairs. I nervously glanced at Hendrik. I'm sorry if it seemed I was rushing to his defense.
Don't worry about it. Maybe I should have been more encouraging. He is a student, after all. But I'm also not making promises. We don't hire just anyone. I hope he's not placing all of his aspirations on this humble cave.
I glanced down the stairs. Ugh, what to do? Should I stay with Hendrik or catch up to KYLER? Boo. Excuse me. I left Hendrik and raced down the stairs to meet up with KYLER. Aw, that face! Instead of vanishing out the front door like I had anticipated, KYLER idled by it waiting for me. KYLER? Are you okay?
Yes, I am. I mean...
Oh, ooh. He stammered briefly, then angled his face toward the floor.
Aww, he's blushing.
I didn't expect you to stand up for me. I now realize I was being unreasonable and everything, but you still...
Of course. We're square mates, right? I mean, I'm not gonna say I fully endorse your words. I agree that you crossed the line. He shrank back at that, but nodded willingly. At least he could admit that. However, I know you're extremely passionate about Cowlen Cave. I think that's worth admiring and encouraging. So you have my support.
Merci beaucoup, Melissa.
There, you're more fun to be around when you're happy. Ah, so cute. I added that teasingly, and he gave a mock scoff. Ugh. I wiggled my fingers as he exited the door. Later, KYLER.
Later.
I grinned to myself, then realized how quiet it was on the main floor. Approaching the lab door, I opened it and was delighted to see the room was deserted. Sweet! Email time, finally. Hell yeah! And they failed at emailing. No! At least I succeeded in the cave, though. And we succeeded with KYLER, most importantly. The most important thing. It was so cute, so many cute KYLER faces.